The drawing. Tyler Wilson, age 5 3/4, sat cross-legged on the worn hardwood floor of his grandmother's mountain cottage, tongue poking out in concentration. A box of crayons lay scattered around him like fallen leaves. In his small hands, he gripped a sheet of heavy drawing paper Dorothy had bought especially for visits like this. The picture taking shape showed 5 stick figures standing in a crooked row beneath a blazing yellow sun. The tallest figure had gray hair in a bun and a yellow dress, grim. Next to her stood a man with brown hair and a big smile, Daddy. Then a lady with long black hair, Jessica. A smaller girl with pigtails, Emma. And in the middle, holding everyone's hands, a boy with wild brown curls, Tyler himself. Dorothy watched from the kitchen doorway, drying her hands on a dish towel. It was October, 6 months after everything had fallen apart and begun, slowly, to knit itself back together. The leaves outside the wraparound porch were turning fiery red and gold, and the air carried the crisp bite of the Blue Ridge Mountains. "Grandma," Tyler called without looking up, "why do some families stop talking?" The question landed like a stone in still water. Dorothy's heart gave a small, familiar ache. She crossed the room and lowered herself carefully onto the floor beside him. Her knees weren't as forgiving as they once were. "Families are complicated, sweetheart," she said. "Sometimes people get hurt. Sometimes they say things they don't mean. Sometimes they forget how to listen." Tyler considered this. Crayon paused midair. "But you and Daddy talk now." "We're learning," Dorothy said softly. "Learning how to talk again." Tyler nodded solemnly, then added a garden beneath the family's feet, rows of lopsided flowers and towering sunflowers twice as tall as the people. "That's us," he announced. "All together. In your garden." Dorothy's eyes stung. She reached out and smoothed his curls. "It's beautiful, Tyler. The most beautiful drawing I've ever seen." Chapter 2. 6 months earlier, the birthday that ended everything. The frosting on Mike's 42nd birthday cake had been perfect. Dorothy remembered piping those delicate blue roses at 5 a.m., hands steady despite the early hour. 42 candles waited in the drawer. Only 6 went on the cake. Some truths were kinder when abbreviated. Mike had arrived late, briefcase slamming against the floor like an accusation. He'd poured whiskey, complained about work, dismissed her efforts with a cursory thanks. And then, over roast beef and rosemary potatoes, he delivered the line that changed everything. "You've never done anything meaningful for me, Mom. Name one thing." Dorothy had looked at her son, sharp features, cold eyes, mouth twisted in perpetual dissatisfaction, and felt something inside her quietly snap. "You're right," she'd said. "I've never done anything for you." The words had surprised them both. 3 days later, the legal transfers were complete. Wilson Construction, the real estate portfolio, the hidden investments, everything Dorothy had built in secret over 15 years, now belonged to Jessica Chin. The house in Charlotte sold. Dorothy moved to Asheville with only what fit in a moving truck and a heart full of exhausted resolve. Mike learned the truth on a Monday morning when his key card didn't work. Emma's nightmare. Emma, 3 years old and fierce in her affections, woke screaming one night in Amanda's parents' guest room. "Want Gamma," she wailed. "Want Gamma. Read book." Amanda rocked her for an hour, tears streaming down her own face. She'd supported Mike through the initial shock of the inheritance transfer, had even encouraged the legal fight at first. But when the money ran out, when the house went into foreclosure, when Mike's rage began to scare the children, she'd drawn the line. The next morning, Amanda called Jessica. "I don't want to be in the middle," she said quietly. "But the kids are suffering. They don't understand why their grandmother disappeared." Jessica's voice was careful. "Dorothy's not ready, Amanda. Not yet." Mike hurt her deeply. "I know," Amanda said. "But Tyler keeps asking if Grandma stopped loving them because they were bad." Silence stretched across the line. "I'll talk to her," Jessica finally said. Chapter 5. The letter Dorothy couldn't send. In Asheville, Dorothy wrote letters she never mailed. The first was to Mike, angry, precise, cataloging every sacrifice he'd dismissed. She burned it in the fireplace. The second was to Jessica, apologetic, afraid her drastic choice had burdened the daughter she'd chosen. Jessica already had the company. Dorothy didn't want to saddle her with guilt too. The third was to Tyler and Emma. This one she kept. My dearest Tyler and Emma, Grandma that loves you bigger than the mountains and deeper than the rivers. Nothing you did made me leave. Grown-ups sometimes make big mistakes, and sometimes the only way to fix them is to step away for a while. I hope one day you'll understand. I hope one day I'll hold you again and read you stories and bake cookies with too many chocolate chips. Until then, know that every sunflower I plant is for you. Every star I see at night, I save for your wishes. All my love forever.
Grandma.
She folded it into an envelope, wrote their names in careful script. Mike's first real day. Mike's new job as site manager started at 5:30 a.m. He wore steel-toed boots, a hard hat, and the humiliation of demotion like a second skin. His crew, men and women who'd once called him Mr. Wilson, now called him Mike. Some with sympathy, some with satisfaction. On his third day, a concrete delivery was late. The old Mike would have screamed at someone. The new Mike called the supplier himself, negotiated calmly, and rearranged the poor schedule without losing a day. His foreman, Carlos, a man who'd worked for Wilson Construction for 20 years, clapped him on the shoulder at quitting time.
Not bad, Mike.
Not bad. It was the first praise Mike had earned in years. Chapter 7. Jessica's Quiet Victory. Jessica stood in the boardroom where Mike once held court. The same table. Different energy. She'd just closed a major contract for sustainable affordable housing, something Dorothy had dreamed of but never pushed while playing shadow leader. After the meeting, Harrison Webb, the CFO who'd known Dorothy's secret for years, lingered. Your mother would be proud, he said. Jessica's throat tightened. I hope so. I still feel like an imposter sometimes. Harrison shook his head. You earned this, Jessica. Long before the papers were signed. Dorothy saw it. We all did. Mike just couldn't. Chapter 8. The Drawing That Traveled. One Saturday in September, Mike took the kids to a park near his cramped apartment. Tyler brought his crayon box. He drew another family picture, this one with mountains in the background, and a little house with a porch. Daddy, he said, can we mail this to Grandma? Mike's heart stuttered. He hadn't spoken to his mother since the hospital, since the raw confession in her room as dawn broke over Asheville. I don't have her address, he admitted. Tyler's face fell. But, Mike added quickly, I know someone who does. He texted Jessica, a cautious, professional exchange at first. Their working relationship had thawed to cordia. Personal bridges remained charred. Can you get this drawing to Mom? It's from Tyler. Jessica replied within minutes. Of course. 3 days later, Dorothy opened her mailbox to find a plain white envelope addressed in Mike's careful block letters. Inside was Tyler's drawing and a short note in Mike's handwriting. He asked me to send this. He misses you every day. So do I. Dorothy sat on her porch steps and cried for the first time since leaving Charlotte. Chapter 9. The Phone Call. That night, Dorothy called Amanda. The conversation was awkward at first. Two women who'd shared holidays and heartaches, now navigating the wreckage Mike had left. The drawing, Dorothy said finally. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Tyler talks about you constantly, Amanda replied. Emma still asks for Gamma stories. Dorothy closed her eyes. I miss them so much it hurts. Then see them, Amanda said simply. Mike's different now. Not perfect, but trying, really trying. A long pause. I'm not ready for Mike, Dorothy admitted. But the children didn't choose any of this. Bring them for a weekend, Dorothy heard herself say. Just you and the kids. Mike can stay in town. Chapter 10. The First Visit. The October weekend arrived crisp and golden. Amanda's SUV pulled into Dorothy's gravel driveway just after lunch on Saturday. Tyler spotted Dorothy on the porch and bolted from the car before Amanda had fully parked. Grandma. He launched himself into her arms with the force of a small missile. Dorothy caught him, breathing in the scent of little boy and crayons and shampoo. Emma toddled behind, shy at first, then lifted her arms with imperious demand. Dorothy scooped her up too, holding both grandchildren close until her arms trembled. They baked cookies, too many chocolate chips. Read stories, goodnight moon 3 times in a row. Planted sunflower seeds in the garden, even though it was late in the season. For next summer, Tyler declared. So the last gift. That night, after everyone left and the cottage settled into mountain quiet, Dorothy sat on her porch with a glass of wine. 68 now. Hair more silver than gray. Hands marked by decades of work, some visible, most not. She thought about the empire she'd built in secret. The son who'd taken it for granted. The daughter she'd chosen who'd proven worthy beyond measure. The grandchildren who'd become her anchor. She thought about love, not as a debt owed, but as a garden tended. Some plants you prune severely so they grow better later. Some you give space. Some you water daily. The greatest gift, she realized, hadn't been the inheritance transfer or the dramatic exit. It had been refusal. Refusing to enable Mike's worst self any longer. Refusing to let love be one-sided. Refusing to disappear quietly into resentment. By giving him nothing he hadn't earned, she'd given him everything he needed, the chance to become someone better. Headlights swept up her driveway. Unexpected. Mike's truck. He climbed out carrying a small wooden box. I forgot something, he said, approaching the porch steps. He handed her the box. Inside was a hand-carved sign, letters burned carefully into cedar. The Wilson Garden. Planted with love. Tended with patience. I made it in a woodworking class, he said, almost shy. The kids helped pick the design. Dorothy traced the letters with trembling fingers. It's perfect, she whispered. Mike hesitated, then sat on the step below her. Not presuming equality, just presence. They sat in silence as stars came out, bright and fierce in the mountain dark. After a long while, Dorothy spoke. You're different with them. With the kids. I'm trying to be the father I should have been. The son I should have been. She nodded slowly. It's enough for now, she said. It's a beginning. Mike let out a breath that sounded like relief. Above them, the sunflowers rustled in the night breeze, tall sentinels watching over new seeds just beginning.